All right, awesome. So we're here with Angela Meyer. I'm doing another morning interview with a musician. This is pretty fun. So
They're
Angela,
not our
tell
hour.
so tell I guess introduce yourself. Tell everyone a little bit about you, where you're located, how you got into music, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so my name is Angela Meyer. I am currently located in the Quad Cities, right, straddling the Iowa-Illinois border, in a small town called McCausland. There's 306 of us here, and it's a great place to foster community and also to just go out to different places and play music. I've been doing it full time for 2 years. I play mostly country music, but with a lot of Western influence as well. So we also travel the country doing cowboy poetry, Western music festivals, rodeos, all kinds of really fun stuff. So that's kind of what I've been up to. Been doing it professionally for 10 years. But for me, that looked like a lot of side gigs. And then music was always just kind of like the hobby. And then the last 2 years, I was like, you know what? This is not a dress rehearsal. This is real life. And I'm going to do what I want. And that is music. So that's been the last 2 years. It's been really great.
That's very cool. So for people maybe who are listening, who don't know the difference between country and Western, can you define what that looks like?
That's a big question in our industry as well. What's the difference? What is it? To me, it's kind of like Nashville is very country, and then Western is more like, in my opinion, like the real world. Like
The real world, yeah.
Actually living within those communities of farming and ranching and agriculture and even just, small towns. But the Western is more focused on people that have the livestock, people that are actually working our earth, people that are like the very blue collar, like those are the people. Country music is almost more like the people's music. It had different roots than Western music did, but to me, they all really intermingle. I think
Sure.
really great country music has a lot of Western flair, and really great Western music has a lot of country flair. Country tends to have a little bit more pop influence too. It's a little more palatable for anyone to listen to. Whereas Western music, you might be asking yourself, like, what did they just say? What did they mean by that? Because it might be some phrase or something that's like, what's a heifer? So just like there's a little bit of a difference there. It's in the Midwest. I think there's more country and less Western. So we do have to travel a lot to find that kind of music, but I would love to see it all across the country, because there are people that farm and ranch that would really, really get a kick out of the cowboy poetry and Western music as well.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's funny. I've been talking to different musicians here in the area, and I really do. I think there's, and maybe it's not Western, but I think that there's a general theme of like kind of like blue collar original music coming out of this area. I think that's definitely a thing.
Yes.
And something I think that kind of unites a lot of the musicians, whatever genres they're playing. I think specifically in this area, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, and I think this area has a lot of the blues influence too, right? And the jazz, with the river being here. And so there's a lot of different influences that have come together. And also people that, if you're living here and you're a musician, that's probably not your first job right out of high school is like full-time musician. And so
Totally.
we have a lot of these other experiences of, I worked in a meat locker, or I worked in food service, or I did this, or I was a mechanic, or so we have a lot of that blue collar, because that's just you sing what you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, right. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Which I think is really cool. I think it's kind of something that kind of people can identify with here. And the people that are writing these original songs, a lot of them who are full time play just kind of regionally here. They're not touring all over the world or even the U.S.
Right.
Because they're able to get enough of a following here, because I think people connect with that kind of writing. Really, yeah, that's cool.
People love to see like music in their hometown, and a lot of times, even if I go out and play a show in Sterling, if I'm in Rock Falls the next day, like it's not the same crowd. And so
Yeah.
people that are musicians can bring this music into these tiny little pockets without necessarily having any overlap, unless you have somebody that has you have your following that's going to find you wherever you're at. But for a lot of people, you know, they just want to come out to an event, drink a beer with their neighbor, and that's kind of our service, is like, let us provide some music while you're doing all of that.
Right, just an excuse to get together, right?
Right, exactly. Because the bigger, you know, I'm thinking country music, the bigger artists, they're going to go Chicago or Des Moines, and a lot of times miss all of the stuff in between because they don't have to. And so there's this really big gap that's filled by smaller artists that are just as, if not sometimes more talented than these bigger acts with more production and a bigger team behind them, but you're still getting that quality music and really unique sound with a lot of these acts.
Yeah, it's cool. So you said you've been doing music for about 10 years professionally. Like, how did you get into music? What did that look like when you first started?
Yeah, so for me, I was like born and raised with it. Like, I was singing before I could talk. My mom, she was a lover of country music and actually was in a cover band for a while, which was like her rebellious state. I like the phrase "I'm the only hell my mom ever raised" is like me and my mom to a T. She is such like straight and narrow. But she did this cover band for a while, like Eagles, Shania Twain, the Judds, like 80s, 90s kind of country and rock influence to it. And so some of my earliest memories are like her playing at the state fair and I'm dancing around as the 3-year-old in the tent.
Yeah.
And like the secondhand smoke is raining down on me. Like, so as she became a mother and grew up a little bit, she's like, maybe this isn't the best environment for like being a Midwestern mom. So I think some of that guilt set in. And so she quit doing it for a while until she was able to do it within a church setting. And so I grew up also going to church, and she did all of the kids choirs, church choir, musicals, like you name it, my mom was doing it. And so that was a big influence on me as well. And that's where I really started performing. And I remember my first solo in church was the song Concrete Angel by Martina McBride, which if you know that song, it's like the saddest song about this girl that was abused and then died because of this abuse. And people were like, oh my God, does she know what that song is about? And I remember me at like 8 years old being like, yes, this is an important story. Let's tell it. This girl, like child of the Lord, let's talk about it. And people are like, what? And so at that point, I'm really realizing the difference between like, I want to be a storyteller for real people. And so I did like praise band for a while. But by the time I was 15, I was going to open mics down at the River Music Experience and down in Davenport there with Ellis Kell. And it was just, he was everything in getting me started. He was the first person that really, really believed in me in a big way, and so helped me get my first gig at the River Music Experience. And I'm trying to think what it was called, like Mojo's, their coffee house. That was kind of their downstairs area, and so that was my first gig, was Mojo's at 16. Wow. And I was opening for a band from Chicago called The Moves, and they were like, I don't even know, indie of some breed. But not like, that was not a great matchup other totally than different. Like, you knew it was my first. Yeah. Other than like, well, she's local, maybe she'll like pull in a crowd. And so I did. And then they all left after I performed. Right. Kind of awkward. But yeah, so that was yeah. So that was my first like paid gig at 16. Nice. Was playing there. And it was like a 45-minute set. And I was just like, wow. Oh my God, you made it.
Right. I hear you. Yeah. That's cool. You know, that's something that when you mentioned Ellis Kell believing in you and that sort of thing, you know, everyone that I talk to, almost everyone that I've talked to can identify that a single person that changed their life in that direction to take that leap of faith to do music full time. I think that's kind of a cool thing. You know, I guess just kind of a reminder that a lot of times we don't know the impact that we might have on someone. You know, just even small encouragement, I think sometimes can go a long way. That's cool.
I think it's just finding, you know, what resonates with you. You hear a ton of people talk, a ton of people give their opinions. If it would have resonated with me that musicians, artists make no money and that you can't do this as a living, maybe I would have listened. I don't know, but there was a lot more people that were like, you can scale this, you can do anything, you can travel, you can, like, this is your life, you should do what you're happy doing. And I'm like, those are the ones I want to listen to. So I did kind of pick and choose. But I think Ellis was a good person to listen to. And he passed before I actually went full time. But I think of him often, and he's just a wonderful person that got so many people, especially in the Quad Cities, inspired.
Yeah, yeah.
Blues. He was a blues guy. He wasn't even country, but it's all, musicians are family.
He changed a lot of lives. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. A huge impact.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as life as a musician, what does that look like? And I'll say, what does that look like? And maybe preface it by saying, what did that look like before the pandemic happened? Like, what were you doing on a normal basis? And even just kind of like the behind the scenes stuff that people don't see, booking gigs and, all of the administrative stuff that happens behind the scenes. What did that look like for you?
When I first started, so I was a nanny for 3 years right before I transitioned into this. And so when I first started, what it looked like was put the kids down for a nap and get as much done as you can in an hour and a half. And then whatever I wouldn't get done, I would go home and do. And so, when I first started, it was maybe 1-2 shows a month. That was for a long time, many, many years, was just 1 or 2 shows a month. And then when I decided, okay, this is the amount of money I make a month, this is the amount of money I need to make gigging so that I can quit the nanny job, because the kids are getting older, like I need to transition out of that. And so for me, it was just black and white. This is what I need to make. How many gigs do I do to get there? And so then it started picking up, and it was more 2 to 3 shows a week. And then at that point, like stress wise, time wise, I'm like, I have to stop the nanny job, because 7 to 4 every single day is not working for me. And so, so I really, really look up to people that actually have kids and do this full time. Amazing people, because I was like a fake side mom and still was struggling. So
totally.
But
yeah.
So once I took it full time, then you hit this like full swing, and people think like, oh, you've done it now. Well, now I have to find a balance, right? Because I still have a boyfriend, I still have dogs, I still have horses, I still have yoga, these other passions, I still have a life, I still need to not work every second of the day. And so then like figuring out, even when you're self-employed, shoot, maybe I do need to add some hours, add some structure. So I would say I quit working 40 to 50 hours a week for them to start working 70 to 80 for myself. And that's completely unpaid. That's just booking gigs. That's just redoing a website, adding in events, taking promotional photos, reaching out, networking with people, connecting, just always like spotting for opportunities. A lot of social media stuff. I mean, it's pretty boring for the most part, but I love it. It's monotonous. If you looked at it from the outside, you're like, gosh, that girl's on her phone a lot. But it's always just looking for that next opportunity, and you're looking at it, the entire world. Okay, where do I go next? So it's a big spectrum that you're trying to look at all sides of and see within the country music industry, within the Western music industry, where can we go? What can we do that's going to reach people and resonate through what I'm doing? And then on the side, like songwriting, learning new stuff, practicing, getting better at my craft. All of that is part of my job too. Cleaning equipment. Yeah. There's so much that goes into it. So much.
No, right. Totally. That's awesome. And so, when everything kind of happened with the pandemic and you started losing gigs, and, it became apparent that things were going to be changed, at least for a little while and maybe for longer. That's, I guess, probably some of that is kind of normal, because you're always adapting. As a musician, you're always trying to, like you said, looking for new opportunities, trying to, do things better, and, take your career to new places and things like that. And so probably on one hand, it's a little bit of like, okay, yeah, this is like something I'm used to. But then at the same time, it's like a lot of the things that you were used to doing are no longer options, right?
Yeah.
So what has happened, I guess, since that?
Yeah. So my last show that I did was March 7th. And within that next 2 weeks, I'd lost over like 20 to 30 gigs, which is huge. When you lose one, it's like a kick to the gut. And when you lose that many, it teaches you how to be patient, how to be compassionate. I had a lot of people whose emails started off with, please don't be mad, but it's like, I'm not. I'm not. We're all in this together. So for a little while, it was like this deep, dark place of like, I just lost my job. Like, I just lost everything. Like, I can do whatever I want, but we're not performers because we like to be in an empty room playing to our cat. Like, we're performers because we love to connect with people. And so to not have that piece, and even doing it online, is not the same. Not the same at all. Yesterday, I had a gig where I actually was able to go into a brewery and we did an online live stream. And you just can't help but notice the difference still. You're like, the thing that's missing is people. You don't feel that energy buzzing in the room. You don't get the, you know, I hate to say we do it for the applause, but we kind of do. Like, there's a transaction there as a musician where you're providing something and they give it right back. And that's the really fun piece to it. So I had to get really creative. All of a sudden, my industry was completely oversaturated with people like, you know, I'm not going to compete with Garth Brooks on a Friday night. If he's live streaming 7 to 9 p.m., I'm out. Like,
absolutely.
He's got that. So when we have Garth and George Strait and like all these people are just popping on for these free live streams, there's no room in our industry then for anybody to make money because everybody's doing it for free. So at that point, you have to get creative. So I started doing request videos where people pay me $25. You can hear me sing any song in the world. I will dedicate it to whoever you want. And so that filled me up for the first few weeks. And I would say if I don't have yoga, I would be in a worse spot with music. So I was able to also supplement through my yoga stuff and building that. I think this time has been really important because we're never going to lose all of this online experience that we now have and these online ideas. Especially in the Midwest, even if there's a snowstorm, now we know how to do it. We don't have to lose a show. We know how to do it. So I think these like pages in our book that we're writing are super important, like dog ear them, highlight them, remember them, but also realize we're going to get past them at some point. But right now it does look very, very different. I've done a few socially distanced concerts, which have been awesome, where you just play like in the middle of a neighborhood and people just crawl out of their homes, and some people are in their full-on masks, some people are on their patios like afraid to come outside, but they're opening their windows. Like, there's so many different people are all over the place with this thing, but the music is still the same. And for a lot of people, they'll say, you know, that was the highlight of my week, or that was the highlight of my quarantine, and you're like, yes, it's still there. The power of music is still there. So yeah, it looks different, but it's been really good. We'll never forget this time. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think we can forget it. No, I don't think so at all. Yeah. So you did, before all this happened, you were mainly going out and playing in like wineries, bars, places like that. Yeah, venues and places like that. And that was kind of your bread and butter. That was what you were normally doing all the time.
Oh yeah. I would say like 95% of what I do, both in music and yoga, is service based. Yeah. So if I'm not able to go somewhere, you know, within that first week, the yoga studio closed and I lost all of those shows, and I'm just like, awkward. Like, now what? What page in the book was that, in the entrepreneur book, where it's like, for pandemic assistance, turn to page 420. Like, that wasn't in there. Yeah, it was very different. And I think a lot of venues, even if we just lifted the curtain on this thing tomorrow and we're all back to normal, there are so many people that are struggling out there. And the last thing on their mind is going to be bringing in music. So I think this will affect musicians for a long time. And I hope that people that are able to have kept their jobs now will really look at the house concert option, will really look at the neighborhood concert option, the ranch farm concert option, and just think about, you know, kind of taking that over for the venue, or sponsorships, or like, we're going to have to get creative with this because small businesses have been hit hard. And I think it will take them a while to rebound. I know a lot of my customers, you know, I hope I haven't lost too many customers permanently. I don't know of any right now that have had to close permanently. But I'm sure there will be by the end of this thing. It's just been really tough for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, it's it's scary because I think you're right. I think a lot of these venues will not reopen. They just can't make it through this time, and that will really change, I think, the landscape of things for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think being in the Midwest, people too have realized like the power of neighbors again. And so I think we'll see a lot more of that. Like everybody, just like at your house, everybody bring a dish.
Right.
Get together, let's share a meal and listen to some music. And I hope that's what we see is kind of this Midwestern potluck revival, and like I'll be part of it.
There you go. I'm ready. Let's do it. Yeah. So have you been I guess surprised by the support that you've seen from people during this time? I mean, it's obviously like a different way for you to kind of connect with people. Have you had like some really kind of things that have happened that you wouldn't have expected?
Yeah, I mean, there's been good and bad. There's been times I've been on live streams, and I've even started going, there's different like quarantine beer chug pages. I've started doing those. They really like to be entertained.
That's great.
That's right in the sweet spot for me as a country music artist. And so I'll go on there, and there's some other pages that I've done too, like quarantine music, whatever. And you'll go on there for 2 hours and not make $1. And that is so discouraging. And then there's other times that I'll have people that have listened to my music for a long time send me an ungodly amount of money through PayPal. And it's just like, thank you. And so it's like, you see both, and everybody's in a different boat right now. And so that's what I remind myself is like, this is not something to take personally either way, because there's a lot of people that are not making any money right now. And there's a lot of people that are still making money and getting that surplus. And they're like, yeah, what do I do with this money? It's falling out of my ears. So either way, it's so nice to have support. But financial support is super, super fun too. But yeah, it's funny how it's come in. But it's a great opportunity for people that were thinking like, oh, I've been wanting to buy that hat for a while. And they're like, this is the time. So that's been really cool. I've had a lot more merch orders now than I ever have had from online shows in the past, for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You sound pretty hopeful. You
have to be. I mean, I think there's times I'm not. I mean, you can ask
sure.
me. There are mornings I just wake up bawling. So I'm like, we're still in this, like another day of this, and you just feel like drained. And I think if the Mississippi Valley Fair gets canceled, then you'll see a different side of me come out for sure for a few days. It's just different right now. But I think coming from a place of gratitude, like we're grateful for so many different things that we maybe never even realized that we were grateful for before.
Totally.
And I think it's really highlighting places in our homes that we're not happy. And so we're working out different places within, okay, I really don't like how that fence looks, or, okay, I really don't like how you don't do the dishes, or I really don't like how we don't let the dogs out at this time, or I don't like my morning routine. Like there's so many little things that contribute to our happiness that we can figure out right now. It's like forced home therapy right now.
That's very true. Yeah, no, I agree completely. Especially with kids.
And I don't have kids. That's my blessing. If I had kids in this, it might also be a different story. I'm not homeschooling anybody right now.
Yeah. No, it's good. I think we're all learning and going through this together, like you said.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what do you, I guess, just a couple last questions. What do you think things are going to look like for musicians after this? I mean, if venues aren't able to reopen, obviously there's going to be some stuff that will come back, but do you think that some of the things that are happening now will carry over permanently into kind of the landscape of the life of a musician?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I hope so. On some fronts, I think we do need to be prepared. I think a lot of us run ourselves into the ground and further at what we do service-wise. And so I think from a mental health and a personal health standpoint, we're looking at this time. And just even as far as like all these musicians getting sick, were they sharing the same mic? Do we ever clean a microphone ever in 30 years? Like stuff like that. Do I even clean my own equipment after I've been sick? And then I let, friends come up and use it, stuff like that. So that kind of stuff, I hope we do change. But yeah, it would be really nice to just be able to do our job again.
Yeah, right. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're doing online concerts and stuff like that. You also have merchandise for sale. Can you talk a little bit about all of that side of stuff? I think that's pretty cool what you're doing with all that, and it ties obviously in with the style of music you're playing and all that too. So
yeah, oh for sure. Yeah, so I would love to do more neighborhood concerts, so I'll just plug that. Like if anybody wants me in their neighborhood, reach out through my website, which is angelmeyer23.com, and we can set something up. It's really easy to do online tipping right now too, and so if everybody just learned that right now, I think our industry would be a million times better. We're not passing gross cash around. We could just online tip. Mm-hmm. Venmo, PayPal are really great. My website, as far as what I have for merch right now, I have hats. They say hell yeah, bucking right, with a bucking horse on them. They're super cool. T-shirts, albums, koozies. There's all kinds of good stuff on there. And then those song requests as well. So any song in the world, you can dedicate it to anybody. They've been really, really cool. I've had some really trolly ones. I had somebody request Fat Bottom Girls for their mom for Mother's Day. That was a great one.
You delivered that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. No, anything. I'm down for anything. I've also had the auctioneer song. So people aren't playing. They want me to like really struggle through this. So I can now like halfway auctioneer a little bit, maybe.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been really good. So yeah, those are kind of the fun things on my website. I also added a tip jar to my website so that from now on, people could just have that as a one-stop shop, even if they're at a live show. If you don't have cash on you, just throw it onto the online tip jar.
That's smart.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I have going on.
Do you have a Patreon? I can't remember.
I do. I just started one actually through COVID-19. I started a Patreon. So it's under the same name, Angel Meyer 23. I've got really cool prizes on there. I just sent out a lyric sheet to Croatia the other day.
Wow.
Yeah, which I would have only known where it's at because of some yoga treats that my friends have been on. Other than that, I had no idea where Croatia was. But I've also got, if anybody signs up for my Patreon, you get a free request video as well. So even if you're at $3 a month, you get a free request video. So cool. Yeah, anywhere from $3 to $50 a month is where I have my Patreon right now. And I just try to do as many little prizes as possible on there. Patreon's fun. I really like it.
Yeah, I haven't really done a lot with it. I've seen some people that have the accounts and stuff, and I think it's cool. I think it's something that's new to a lot of us. I think it's a great concept though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of fun in this time too, is like learning what's out there. And like maybe we've all been just overthinking this and they've already invented the wheel and we just need to get on board with it. But yeah, it's just crazy. I didn't even know how to use Zoom before this all hit. So
here we are.
Here we are. This is like, I'm learning, I'm evolving.
Yeah, totally. No, that's awesome. Very cool. Well, do you have any last things to say before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Just thank everybody for the support, and we'll get back at it as soon as we can, but we've got to be safe and be well until then.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
It was great to connect. It's always great to talk to you, but especially during this time, I think, that for me, that's one thing that I've been able to do more, is just kind of reconnect with people.
Yeah.
It's just kind of an excuse to say hi to people and check in on them and see what they're up to and see if they're okay. And
yeah.
That's been a blessing.
Definitely. So. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, John. It was so good to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Have a great day. Tell Dean hi.
I will, yes.
And your parents.
Yes, you the same. Tell the fam bam hello.
Will do. All right, we'll see you. Thanks.
All right, bye.